Hello everybody, I'm Cafe. Today I'm going to talk about the role of speakers and the listener in the oral communications. What are the speakers and the listeners? Speakers and the listeners are the communication process between two persons or more, with the speaker sending out the message to another person as the listeners receive the message and giving the feedback to the speakers. Communications rarely work when two or more people are speaking at the same time. Many different types of relationships, including working relationships or friendships, don't work because of people are not able to communicate effectively. And also, a business, an interview, or the proposal, they couldn't success without a good oral communications. This is the example for the communication fail. For people to be able to communicate properly, they have to take on the role of speakers and the listeners, depending on the situations. To have feelings and equal relationships, individuals need to feel others are listening to their problems and success, and they need to do the same for others too. Both the speakers and the listener are responsible for ensuring that the effective communications. Now, let me explain furthermore for the speakers and the listeners. Oral communication consists of a sender, a message, and a receiver. A sender, which means is a speaker who encodes and sends a message to a receiver or a listener to a particular channels. Example like face-to-face channels, electronic like email, mobile phone call, written or broadcast. Effective speakers are those who can most clearly deliver their message to another audience. This is the example for the communication process. As a sender, he's choosing for face-to-face interview and then sending out a message to the receiver, and then the receiver receives the message and giving the feedback to the speakers. To be an effective speaker, voice attribute is important too. Like a volume, you need to have an efficient volume to deliver your message. If your speaking is too soft, audience will not able to hear what and understand what you're talking about. Tone and tempo. The tone of the speaker is reflecting your emotions and attitude. A cheerful and pleasant tone is usually appreciated by your listeners. Let's see an example of the tone of the speakers. Let me explain this to you. In the video example for the tone using by the speakers, we know that the different tone using bring a different meanings or the message to the listeners. We should use the pleasant and comfortable tone instead of loud and aggressive tone for the listeners. Most of the case, audience will be received wrong or different message from the way you speak to them. Another thing, tempo is also important in the oral communications. Don't speak too fast or too slow. Speaking too fast, the listener won't able to catch up what you're talking about. And if you're talking too slow, listener might run out of patience and lose interest in the topics of your talkings. Let's see the example for this. Hello, I'm Mr. Ng. I'm looking for Mr. Chan. Oh, engage. Can you ask him to call me back? My number is 017-621-1410. Thank you. Hi, I'm Mr. Ng. I'm looking for Mr. Chan. Can I speak to him? Oh, engage. Would you mind to ask him to call me back? My number is 017-621-1550. Thank you. Have a good day. Now we know that the tempo and the tone are important for the speaker to sending out this message. What about listeners? Listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret message in the communication process. Listening is the key for all effective communications. Without the ability to listen effectively, messages are easily misunderstood. As the result, communication breakdowns and the senders of the message can easily become frustrated and irritated. Listening is not the same as hearing. Hearing is referred to the sound that enters into your ears. But listening requires more than that. It requires focus and concentrated effort. both mental and sometimes physical as well. Listening meaning pay attention not only to the story, but how it's been told, the use of the language and the voice, and how the person uses his or her body. In other words, it means be aware for both verbal and non-verbal message. That's it. According to the Devoto, effective listening consists of 5 components, which is receiving, understanding, remembering, and evaluating and responding. Let's see one by one. One is receiving. Receiving meaning listening is different from hearing. Hearing is just a voice of the sound that goes into your ear, but listening is receive a sound with a message which speaker trying to reach to the listeners. Listener not only receive the sound of the message, but also from the body language and the facial expressions from the speaker, which enable listener to have a better understanding. Next, understanding. After receive the message from the speakers, this is the stage to decode the message that you have received. And next, remembering. Remember, listening also involved with remember what's received from the speakers and save it later for evaluating and judging and giving the feedback. Evaluating. Evaluating is the stage where you should make a judgment. This is the stage is often done unconsciously by the listeners. In some cases, you are trying to analyze speakers' intentions and the motive. You may need to decide whether the speakers have a personal agenda or the biases. Next, responding. Respondings are the feedback based on what you have heard, usually after the speakers finish his talk. In the respondings, you are giving the feedback. Allow the speaker to know what you think about him and how do you feel about what he's saying and what he told you. No communication would work without presence of the speakers and the listeners, no matter in working, social, or even in relationships. To have a good oral communications, we need to know the importance of the role as a speakers and the role of the listeners. That's all I want to share for today. Thank you for your attention.